Howdy, my name is Roger. I love my country, my truck, and Power Platform best practices. If you're serious about becoming a Power Platform solutions architect, join the Architects Accelerator. Now enough of my fake Southern accent, and let's hear from an actual participant of the program, Anna Black.
Hi, I'm Anna Black. I'm the creator of Power Platform Cookbook. I joined the Architects Accelerator because I saw a post from Magdalena and she was so positive and inspired me to join and see what it's all about. Before joining the accelerator, I was avoiding AI, and then when I saw how to apply AI and practice like soft skills, and it just like it really opened my mind to try different things for myself with different tools and everything. It really helps you to evaluate what you know and what you don't know, because when you are doing your job for like so many years, you might be missing a trick and like a different approach. So it really helped me to look at the problems from a different angle. And it was really great to meet with people and be like a part of another community and exchange ideas and so on. So yeah, lots of benefits that did change my life. So thank you.
The link is in the show notes, or go to untethered365.com to learn more.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Sprint Zero podcast. My name is John Russell and I'm here with my co-partner Crab in Crime, Mike Gowland. Say hello, Mike. How are you?
Hello, John.
Oh, you can do that
I
too.
can't do it. I can't do it as well.
Oh, okay. Today we're thrilled to have Areti Iles on the show. She's a force in the Microsoft community, working her magic with Dynamics 365 and Power Platform while championing women in tech and AI adoption. She's also made waves as a speaker despite being an introvert. Nice. We're excited to dive into her journey from user groups to big conferences and how she's making an impact in tech. How are you doing, Areti? You good?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me on the podcast. Very excited to be here.
No worries.
No, thank you for coming on, Areti. I think we met at the South Coast user group a few months ago, and I begged you to come onto the podcast. So, thank you for filling in the form, and glad you're here.
Yeah, because I know you're quite busy at the moment, right? With Scottish Summit.
We will talk about that.
Yeah,
we will.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'll jump down again. I do that quite a lot.
So, Areti, first of all, do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be where you are now?
Sure. So I started off quite a few years ago, over 15 years ago, when the company I used to work for was looking for someone to manage their Microsoft Dynamics CRM system. So I worked with the consultants at the time to introduce it to the business unit I was working with. And I just loved the software. So this was Dynamics CRM at the time, like 2013, I think, or 2011 even. And I just got the bug for it then, and eventually I became a technical programs manager at a nonprofit, so I kind of switched jobs, and I got to the point where I knew enough about the platform to decide to go into consultancy myself, so I became a consultant. And eventually made my way through a number of Microsoft partners. I became a solution architect, and now, since the last year, I've been working for a Microsoft consultancy called Telefonica Tech. They're a Microsoft partner. They're the technology arm of Spanish Telefonica. So we have 5 divisions: modern workplace, data and AI, cybersecurity. Obviously, we've got Microsoft Business Applications, and that's where I'm in. And I head up the delivery of the professional services sector. So I oversee all of the projects and programs within professional services, from a few £100 to a few £1 million. We are a team of over 30 people that work in the professional services space. So that's what I do, but very much still involved with the technology. Currently, my main passion about it is how do you adopt AI? And what do you have to have in place to adopt AI? So I'll tell you a little bit about my session at the Scott Summit in a bit. But yeah, definitely AI adoption. I'm also a women in tech advocate, a mental health advocate as well. I run the Reading user group.
So you mentioned Telefonica. Is that the same Telefonica that runs the O2 mobile network in the UK?
The very same, correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought as much. It's just you see, they're a massive company. I guess a lot of consumers would see them just as mobile provider, but actually do a hell of a lot more, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Now, they have grown massively from the beginning of when Telefonica was first founded to now. Having a technology division in itself with 5 divisions under it, it's there's thousands of people working on this, and there's a lot of synergy as well between us. So I have projects that are Microsoft Business Applications projects, but we have the data and AI teams in there because there's a big element of data and AI within Microsoft Biz Apps as well. So it creates a lot of great synergy because we have a lot of specialists within the company that we can use for projects. And it just means that any requirements that a customer has, we have a lot of people within Telefonica Tech that we can create kind of fusion teams to deal with them. And obviously, we are users of the Microsoft technologies as well internally. So it helps when you're using the technology and also implementing it as well.
So we know that Scottish Summit is coming up very soon. I think, in fact, it's 8 days away. So this is a good segue, Areti, because this means this podcast probably is going to have to go out before then. Good luck, Mike. And so I know that you're heavily involved in that. And do you want to tell us a little bit more about your involvement and kind of what you're looking forward to there?
Sure. Yeah, nothing like a deadline, right? So yes, I am very, a bit, in all honesty, too excited about Scottish Summit this year. Yeah, and I have been for a long time. I volunteer at the conference and the South Coast Summit as well, and there's a massive amount of work that goes into these events that people don't realize. And yeah, we've got over 100 sessions, 8 different tracks, and I have a lot going on this year. Somehow it's ended up being a very busy one. So Telefonica Tech are actually a sponsor of the summit, so we've got a sponsor session. So I'm doing that with one of my colleagues, talking about future trends in our industry and what you need to know about them. But I also have my own session at the summit. So I'm going solo doing my AI adoption session, which is all about what you need to have in place to successfully adopt AI, what makes a good AI strategy, what even is an AI strategy, and a bit about AI governance as well and why that matters. I'm hosting a panel about women in tech, the myths that keep women from joining our industry and the reasons why women leave the industry as well. And I've got the luxury of interviewing a wonderful panel of amazing women. So we've got Julie Yack, Tricia Sinclair, Katie McMillan, and Lucy Bourne on it. So I can't wait to hear what I have to say about this. And we also have a session with Rex de Koning, Andrew Beebe, and Malin Martens, where we discuss how introverts can get into public speaking and why they should. And of course, I am one of the team captains at the Saturday quiz night. We're bringing the sparkle this year, and there are capes involved. That's all I'm going to say.
Nice.
Well, we were going to bring the Hawaiian shirts, but that's off now, isn't it, John?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm a bit gutted about it, really, to be honest. We were really looking forward to it.
I know, I'm sad for you guys.
Plan like everything around it. So, yeah, okay, never mind. Next time. Yeah, so could you tell us, obviously, you said that there was a lot of stuff that goes on in the background. Could you tell us something about, maybe one of those things that people might not realise, without giving too much of the game away, but, something that you've done or something that you've been part of where even you were like, oh, okay, I didn't realise I needed to do that.
Honestly, I didn't think I needed to talk about women in tech anymore and why diversity is important and any issues that women are facing in the industry, because I've always felt very welcome, really, within the industry. But that was not everyone else's experience. So when I started talking to other women in either in the Microsoft community or just where I worked, I realized that actually there were behaviors that we had all experienced very recently that were a problem. Or I interview a fair amount of people in my role, and I can definitely see a difference between how women approach it and how men approach it, and kind of responses they give. And there's definitely a bit of a difference there still. But we still have a problem with this. We're still trying to increase diversity, not just gender diversity, general diversity, I think, within our industry. Yeah. And it's just one of those things where people don't think it's an issue anymore, but it definitely still is. And we need to be talking about it. And there's a lot of emphasis as well on bringing more people into the industry. But I don't think we do enough to talk about the issues that exist that make people leave the industry as well. And for women, these are all things that are fixable. And I never thought I would have to talk about this, but the more I experienced different women in the industry and the challenges that they were facing, I realized it's actually still a problem and we still need to talk about it. And I was surprised. And I was also very happily surprised that kind of session makes it into summits and conferences and user groups, because it's not a technical session. It's not about the technology, it's about the people dealing with the technology. And I'm very glad as well that everywhere I've ever submitted it, it's always been absolutely come and talk about this, which is great.
So I think it's a very, very deep problem, and I think it's been around for, as long as time. I think um, when we spoke to, I think it was Heather Perriam, and so she's from the US originally, and she said how hurricanes are named alternately between male and female names, and when a hurricane is named after a female name, less people are likely to evacuate because they think it's going to be less powerful.
It's very interesting, isn't it?
I mean, that's that. When she said that, I was like, wow. And
unconscious bias, isn't it?
yeah, and like I've been, my upbringing has always been around women. I've got two daughters. Like it just follows a pattern that I've always been around women, either growing up or friends or whatever. Apart from Mike and a few others. But yeah, it's interesting how you say, like you just said then, how you didn't really realize how big a problem it was until you started speaking to people. And yeah, I think I feel the same, but I think because I'm a male, I'm probably even further away from that, and I'm holding my hands up to that. But yeah, I like to think that we would be, allies of women in tech, and having people like yourself on this podcast is one way of doing that.
Yeah,
definitely.
So, Areti, you spoke at conferences and been involved with many community events, but what's your approach to balancing public speaking with the more reflective behind-the-scenes work that comes with your role?
So it's an interesting one, really, because both public speaking and getting involved in an event as an organizer mean kind of getting outside of your comfort zone and feeling the fear and doing it anyway to a certain extent. With one thing leading on to you doing more things. The more you do what you're scared of, the more you realize you can do more things that you're scared of doing. At least for me anyway. So in both cases, I think both public speaking and events, I make sure I'm prepared, as that takes the nervousness away. So seeing the room beforehand, practicing the presentation to death in front of friends, and all those things that I do. And for events, it is very similar. I make a list of everything. I love a list that needs to of everything that needs to be done. I make sure my co-organizers, Fraser Deer and Tim Lung, are supporting me, because you can't run an event on your own, and having the structure around it is important as well. So we all know what we're responsible for. We know what we're doing. And just control, I think, calms me down. So when I have that, I can relax. Otherwise, I can get very stressed or anxious for sure. So yeah.
So with public speaking events, John and I have sort of found that if we over prepare and over plan, they can sometimes not go right. And we actually find that when we've planned less, which sounds really bad when I say it out loud, but when we plan less and kind of, I guess it becomes a little bit more flexible. Is that what you find as well? Is there a threshold that actually what you do, it might be too rigid, and then it doesn't give you that flexibility to sort of like change and adapt based on the audience? Or is it you sort of like have everything like planned out and everything down to a T? What's the scale there for you?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think I plan what I can plan, because you can't really plan for your audience, for example, and what they're going to do with what you say. But there is that element as well of not expecting everything in your plan to go the way you expect it to, because then if something unexpected happens, it can really throw you. I think it's about kind of seeing it as plan A, and then hoping that plan A is actually what actually ends up happening, but being okay with plan B, C, D. I think being able to adapt, definitely you need to have that for sure, because things will happen.
Also, Mike and I are very literal people. So Mike is like, in Anchorman, have you seen Anchorman?
Yeah.
Yeah, when Will Ferrell was doing the queue, and and the lady puts on whatever she puts on. That's what happens to Mike. If Mike's reading from the show notes and I've made a mistake or something, he will read it out. And then go, oh, okay. So
I do that in jest, John. I do it because it's funny.
No, you definitely do it. You definitely do it for sure. But I think that's what is our downfall as well. Like Mike was saying about, if we overplan stuff, and make it like, quite slide heavy, yeah, it's a bit of a struggle, because I feel like, have I said everything that's on the slide? And that kind of like interrupts my flow of presenting.
Yeah, and there's definitely different ways of presenting something, and people will feel differently about it as well. When we do our public speaking session, I like a room with not too many people in it, whereas Malin, for example, prefers a room with loads of people in it instead of a room with less people in it. So what triggers you to a certain extent will be different person to person. I think it's kind of about self-awareness and knowing what does and doesn't work for you, and rolling with that, really.
Yeah. And so I know you've been organising or been involved in organising, like, Scottish Summit, etc., the Reading Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform user group. Can you think of anything that is like really surprising that you've learned about bringing these kind of community and people together? Have you got any stories, or that you can share?
Lots of stories.
Wow.
Well, I've learned that half of the people that register don't update their RSVPs when they can't make it, which leads to me ordering too much pizza
Yeah.
for the Reading user group, which we then have to try to somehow eat. Please update your RSVPs. It really helps organizers. But the serious answer is that what I've learned from it is that how much we can actually learn from each other and also get support from each other and can achieve together, because I've seen a kind of a compound interest in bringing people together. We all, face common challenges, and it's really nice to see, people that have the same role in different organizations talking about what the different challenges they have are in their roles, because a lot of it is going to be common, and there's a lot of knowledge sharing there where one person can say, hey, I have this problem too, and this is what I do about it. And they go, really, I had no idea this existed, or, and it's really nice to then see them passing on that information. You can learn so much from that, but also speakers learn from their audience. Every time I do a session, I get the questions that I'm asked and try to make the presentations better. Understanding the issues users are facing with their technology really helps as well. And, the reason why we do it is to help them find solutions to those. So it's very rewarding to help another person. And I think that's what the community is for me as well. A bunch of lovely people wanting to help others and do cool things together. And it's great. There's definitely a lot of benefit in it, for sure.
And that feedback's so important as well as a speaker, right? Because you can't. Yeah, it has to be candid feedback. You can't develop as a speaker without that. And however tough of a pill it is to swallow sometimes,
yeah,
it is good. But then on the flip side, the people who leave feedback but don't actually elaborate on it, like they give you like 2 stars and no comments, it's like,
what can I do with that?
Exactly.
It's my pet hate if someone gives you feedback and it's not constructive. It's like, thanks.
Do better.
How work on that?
What does do better mean?
Do better. Jeez.
Areti, you've firstly your session on women in tech. Did you say you're doing that at Scottish Summit?
Yes, it's a panel. Yeah.
So I recommend anybody who hasn't seen the session already, get it into your schedule for Scottish Summit next week if you're going, because it's such an eye-opening session that you deliver on women in tech. And when you did it at South Coast User Group, it opened a massive conversation. I think we may have even let the food go cold outside whilst we were talking about it, if I recall. Or
we
did
it.
The last
we
session.
did it after the food. It was the last
after
session.
The food, so
we would have definitely let the food go cold if it was the first session for sure. Yeah, because I think there was a debate. There was a debate in the room for about 20 minutes afterwards of people sharing their thoughts and experiences, and it was great.
It's such a good and engaging session, and I recommend everyone to go just to get some insight. But what's one myth about women in the industry, in our industry, that we need to retire immediately?
So there's a few, but I definitely think the one about women not being technically focused or interested as men needs to be retired. It's a stereotype it's not only unfounded, but it can also be very harmful because it undermines the achievements and potential of women in the tech industry. And we've made and continue to make significant contributions. So I don't really know where it's even coming from. You look at the history of computer science, and you've got women in it throughout from the beginning. So, the classic one is obviously Ada Lovelace creating the first algorithm. intended for machine. And then you've got Grace Hopper, who developed the first compiler for a computer programming language. But my personal favorite is, as Mike already probably knows, is Sister Mary Kenneth Keller, who was not only a nun, but also the first person to get a PhD in computer science, which I just love that. I believe in God and science. So yeah, it's great. And today, we've got so many women leading groundbreaking projects, innovations around the world across various fields, kicking ass and taking names, quite frankly. So long may it continue. And, diverse teams for me helps everyone and everything, products themselves as well, whether it's software, hardware, even AI. It's better when it's developed by people with a variety of experiences. Fairness, inclusivity, accessibility are key, particularly now with AI models coming into play. So if you don't have a representative team, you're not going to create a product that is meeting the needs of society representatively, which is
and that's that whole red teaming idea, isn't it? Right. And I tried to explain that to my wife a while ago, that there are companies that are actually looking for people with a specific set of skills and knowledge to help them with their AI models. So she's a nursery practitioner looking after early years children, and she knows a lot about safeguarding and stuff like that. So I think for someone like that, her problem is that she gets worried about, it's going to be very technical, and actually what it comes down to is it comes down to words and knowledge. It doesn't actually it is a bit about technology, yes, but there's going to be other people that are doing that part. It's imparting your knowledge onto others about your specialized area of expertise.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. And we need that. We need the human element of it, because otherwise it's not, every technology needs a human element at the end of the day, because if you have a software system and no one uses it, what value is it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. So, Areti, I don't know if you listen to the podcast, but we have this section called Uncomfortable Corner. Uncomfortable Corner. This is one of the reasons why we are up for the award at the UK 100%. Community Awards, for that mingle. So, as you know, Areti, we have this section called Uncomfortable Corner. When was the last time you felt uncomfortable in or outside of work? And could you explain how you felt, how you managed to get through it, and what you learned from yourself in that process?
So I love questions like this. I generally don't tend to get uncomfortable too often, but one moment that does come into mind for me is a few years back. I had a direct report that I had put forward for promotion, and they had to do a presentation as part of that kind of promotion interview. And they got the promotion, which was great because they totally deserved it. But the feedback from the interview panel was that, they were great, just very nervous when they were presenting, and it's just an area to work on and gain more confidence. And they didn't have much experience of doing presentations in front of more senior people as well, which, can be nerve-wracking. So I had the lovely job of calling them up and saying, yay, you got the promotion, well done, you should be very proud. But perhaps there was an error in judgment from my part as a line manager to give them the feedback together with the good news. So I said, congrats. The only feedback, was that we just need to build your confidence when you're presenting, but there's a lot of ways we can do this. The reason why I got uncomfortable was because on hearing this, they, broke into tears, basically, and they really took it to heart, and they felt like maybe they didn't deserve the promotion and they didn't want to have it if they didn't think that they deserved it. And I was like, no, it's not like that. It was just a piece of feedback, but they had to hang up and recover from it. So in hindsight, I should have given the feedback another time and just focused on the good news that day. It was, I was kicking myself afterwards because I knew that person very well, and they are a sensitive person, and they took things to heart and cared a lot, and I misjudged it that time. But there you go. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn.
Well, I hope you are really looking forward. Well, I know you're really looking forward to Scottish Summit. I hope that all goes really, really well for you and everyone else that's going there. We are, like we said, we are a little bit upset that we're not going.
Sorry, I've got something planned for us, Sean.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
You might hear from Sprint Zero over the Scottish Summit weekend.
Oh.
We'll look out for that.
Yeah, nice. We'll see. I actually just want to shout out, actually, because we've been talking about women in tech a lot, and so when I first went to college, I took A-level computing, and this was like my really like my structured introduction to computing, to coding, to really what I do now. And my tutor was a woman, Jill Billen. I'm connected with her on LinkedIn. I don't know if she listens to the podcast or not, but for me, like, that's where that's why I want to see more women in tech, because like that was a really important foundational step for me to move into the career that I'm in now. And really everything that I've done throughout my career since I started work really is boiled down to like those lessons I had back then. So the subject is so important, and we need to keep talking about it. But anyway, I think that's all we have time for today. So Areti, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. You can find Areti on LinkedIn, and you can no longer find her on Twitter. Little pokey face. And you can also find her on her website, aretiiles.com.
Correct.
Is that right? Is that still there?
Correct.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's still alive and kicking.
Excellent. Music today was provided by Ken Like Fit. You can find his music on Spotify, a link to which you can find in this episode's show notes. I can't do this without having the script in front of me, John. It's really weird. We need to add it into our show notes.
It is in the show notes.
Is it?
Look,
Oh,
show notes
I didn't
continue.
see that.
Outro. It's right below it.
Bloody hell. There we go.
Oh, Retty.
Additional music used in this episode additional music used in this episode is credited in the show notes. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss the next episode. We'd also really appreciate it if you gave us a follow on LinkedIn, and if you're really enjoying the podcast, please give us a review on your chosen podcast platform. Thank you. This has been Sprint Zero, and we've been John Russell. Say goodbye, John.
Bye-bye. See you later.
Areti Iles, say goodbye, Areti.
Toodaloo.
And I'm Mike Gowland. We'll see you in the next episode. Love you, John.
Love you, Mike.
Love you guys.
Yeah. Love you too.
I'm Sean. I run the Architects Accelerator. It's an 8-week training program to help you become a solutions architect. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you how awesome it is. We're just going to hear from previous participants.
My name's Mike Colling.
My name is Sander.
Hi, I'm Danielle.
Hi, I'm Luke.
Hi, I'm Callum. I work as a senior functional consultant.
I signed up for this because it sounded something that I hadn't seen anywhere else.
And that's what I liked about this course, is that we were focusing about taking the right requirement and proposing to the customer the right solution.
It's showing how to use the whole platform and how to build better solutions that could last a long time.
I don't have a background in software, and given that it's changing so fast every single day, I needed a guided way of learning. If the solution architect is the direction I want to go, I have taken something from every day of those classes and have applied them to my work.
Found it really useful and really enjoyed it.
Use promo code SPRINT0 to get $50 off.